I recently got this book. I'm on chapter 6 at the moment. And one of the key things I've already learned from just reading the first 5 chapters for this book is how to leverage certain advantages that only exist in Nigeria, right? Or in countries like Nigeria. That's what we're going to focus on in this particular video. One of the first reasons why, or the advantages of having a business or doing business in Nigeria, is the population itself, right? According to World Bank, we are currently 238 million. Having that population means that if you focus on businesses in shelter, food, agriculture, clothing, there's a lot of opportunity for you there, right? Because these people need to be fed. They need to be covered by shelter. And they need clothes, right? They can't be walking around without clothes. That sort of thing. So that kind of shows you the opportunities available, right? And there's enough space for everybody. Or let me not put it like that because that sounds very naive. There's enough space for a lot of players to play because of this population thing. Now, one of the issues with population is, okay, fine, there's a high population, but how much do they have? So there are 2 ways to look at this. The first way is you looking at it from one of the reports that I studied. So PiggyVest they have this like yearly survey or report that they do, and 58% of those people that they surveyed, they earn between 250,000 to less than 100,000. So let's just say most of them earn between 50,000, right? 50,000 naira to 250,000 naira. Another thing you can look at is minimum wage. So minimum wage is 70,000 naira per month at the moment. Hopefully it will go up, right? And when you look at minimum wage, one of the things that I've also understood in terms of my conversations with people that's in the civil service, it's also a very single income household type driven occupation, right? You can begin to think of the businesses that you can start or products that you can introduce to your current business and leverage this. The second one is something that I learned from the first probably like 2 to 3 chapters reading Femi Otedola's book. And that is, big problems, big opportunities. And I would use what he did as an example. So he started a business called Center Force. And basically, Center Force was inspired by, at the time, what they called Wonder Banks. But at the moment, what we call Wonder Banks today is Ponzi schemes. So MMM, things like that, right? So he leveraged the opportunity of people's desire for money, right? And when I say money, they needed help. They needed finance for their business, for their children's upkeep, things like that. So he used to offer loans to these people. So it wasn't a Ponzi scheme where he was taking money from one person and then, telling the person that, I'm going to give you 100 million when you bring somebody back. The typical Ponzi scheme method. No, I'll probably say it was like a microfinance bank in today's terms, that sort of thing. The second one was when he started Xenon Petroleum or Xenon Oil or Xenon. I don't know if it's Xenon or Xenon. Anyways, he started that just from looking at a competitor wasn't a competitor at the time. He was a customer. The person brought their tanker into his house and he was like, I can do a better job than this. He started the business. As he was doing the business, because he was driving or he was in the car with his driver, he started to notice the opportunities available for the demand for diesel in the country. So Nigeria at that time was probably going through an industrialization period where everybody needed diesel, from house to factories to offices, whatever it is, right? So again, I say all this to say big problems equals to big opportunities. Now, one of the interesting issues with big problems is big problems require big capital, okay? So not everybody can play in the big problems, big opportunities space. There's something called barrier to entry in business. And I'll give you a very good example. The cost of me starting an airline today, right? Another airpiece, maybe Damini Air. And the cost of me starting a clothing line, selling Oxford shirts, Damini Clothing. That cost is very different. To start a Damini Clothing business would probably take me, probably cost me about 3 to 5 million naira, right? Let's not even talk about the one for air. Next up, we're going to look at something I call pioneer status or first to market advantage. Now, first to market advantage can be, it can be seen in two things or two ways. The first one is you can literally be like, oh, this is the first person to the market. However, what I've noticed is most of the time, it is not the first person to the market that is actually the first person to the market. They are just the first people that have succeeded in the market. And I would give you an example, right? I'm not going to say, now this example I'm going to give you, I'm not telling you that, oh, they were the first to the market and then, right? So Paystack. Paystack is seen as what we call the Stripe of Africa, okay? Obviously, Stripe also bought them, so it kind of makes sense calling them Stripe of Africa. So the guy that started Seller, apparently used to work in Paystack. And one of the things he said was he was building the Gum Road of Africa or the Gum Road of Nigeria, things like that. What you begin to notice is that most of these people, they leveraged the ideas that were working in the West and then brought it to Nigeria or brought it to Africa. So they did not, they literally took advantage of that pioneer status where this thing is working here. Okay, let us bring it. Let us be the pioneers to bring it. This is probably the one where I know I have leveraged, I take advantage of a lot. And that's our cost of advertising. The cost of advertising in Nigeria is ridiculously low. Once you have your primary customer, you have a product that sits within that price point that we spoke about earlier, and you have a good product, it's literally like a money printing machine. You just turn it on. Pa, 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 pa. Obviously, you need to know how to run ads. You need to understand how to create strong creatives and strong designs, things like that. But their cost of advertising is so low. And it's also low because there is no competition. And the reason why there's no competition is because there is lack of finance or lack of credit, actually, to be precise. I say this because when you look at the Western world or the businesses in the West, I can start a business today. I can request for a credit card, get like 1,500, or let me actually be conservative, get like $500 in credit, and I can start using that to run ads or test ads for my business today. So the competitive landscape in the West is much more compared to here in Nigeria. In Nigeria, who wants to give you credit card? Now, this fifth one, you might disagree, but the cost of living in Nigeria is actually quite affordable. I was talking to a close friend of mine, and he mentioned that he has set up his solar panel system for, I think, 1.8 million naira. He stays in a 2-bedroom, I believe. So 1.8 million naira, and light is sorted. That's it, light is sorted. He pays probably like 1.3 for the year. Guys, so light is sorted, rent is sorted. All that is left is food, things like that. Probably, and again, I'm estimating here because I don't know the lifestyle he lives. Well, I do know the lifestyle, but let's just, for the sake of this video, let's say he probably spends maybe between 7 to 8 million a year for his expenses, things like that. Maybe he saves another 4 million in maybe whatever business he uses, whatever finance account he uses. That's just 12 million, right? When you do the math of 12 million, if you divide that by USD and you compare it to those people that live in the West or those people that live in other parts of the world, you see that the cost of living in Nigeria is also an advantage for businesses running in Nigeria. And I say this because when you play your cards right, because you will play your cards right, you will. But when you play your cards right, when your business begins to make profits and it's time for you to make like investments, things like that, nothing is stopping you from taking those your profit and your investment and doing exactly what these amazing smart businessmen like Femi Otodola do and take it outside the country and begin to invest in other other currencies and things like that, right? So that is where you begin to leverage the advantage of doing business in Nigeria, because there is an advantage. Exposure is important. Just know that exposure is important. I don't want to go off that tangent and begin to start talking about mindset and all of that, but understand that exposure is very important. So please, as you're making your profit in your business, understand that there are certain instruments, there are certain investments that you can then begin to use to even grow your business faster and grow your own income faster and begin to live a better lifestyle, begin to live a legacy, begin to build something for your future generations that will say, mommy, thank you, daddy, thank you, things like that, right? So yeah. Next up is our culture. Some people might question this example, but Burna Boy, like, even though I get this a lot when I tell people that my name is Damini, oh, Burna Boy, blah, blah, blah. But that's your example. You look at Burna Boy, you look at Wizkid, you look at Davido, you look at Easy, you look at our actresses, you look at our actors, you look at our fashion. Our culture is so rich, guys. Jollof rice, again, jollof rice is an African thing. I don't think it's a Nigerian thing, but I'm just giving that as an example. But you see, like, our culture is so strong. Our culture is so vibrant. Like, there are advantages to it. There are advantages to it. I'm not gonna go. So the thing is, within this video, I've actually given you guys certain business ideas, and I'm giving you ways to find business ideas across these different advantages. See as I'm doing my hand. Across these different advantages, and I really hope you get it. So now, in terms of disadvantages, I'll probably say that there are 3 key ones I would focus on in this video. There are more disadvantages, which is kind of crazy, but I'll just focus on these 3 key ones. The first one is logistics network, right? Our logistics network needs a lot of work. Our network needs a lot of work because it's a mess. Locally and internationally, it's a mess. As someone who runs e-commerce stores, it's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. Our supply chain and all that. There's work that needs to be done. There's a big opportunity there for anybody that wants to tackle that problem. They have the love for it. Please go for it. There's a huge, that's a gold mine. That's a gold mine waiting to pop off. Next one is what I would call the unbanked generation, right? So, most of these fintech companies, they're always going for the unbanked. Now, the problem with those unbanked people is a lot of those unbanked people, they don't like technology, right? So with the evolution of AI now, you will start to hear conversations around, this is, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but this is the Antichrist. This is that. Oh my gosh, guys, technology, man. Like, imagine the first person that said, enter a car. Like, they would have called him, only going to go would have called that person. Anyways, that's another issue where, people will not embrace technology. So you need to kind of balance your ideas. There are certain business ideas I started that were too early for the market. And I started them so young and naive. So when you're getting excited, maybe you found an amazing idea, make sure people are ready for it or people are close to ready for it. This is probably the worst. Lack of data. We don't have structured data. Well, we do, but it's not a lot. We don't have a lot of structured data. So that PiggyVest report, for example, there's one from the African Development Bank. But yeah, there is that. You can begin to find information for business ideas that have accurate data, but a lot of them don't have accurate data, right? So if you're looking to start a business, especially a business in Nigeria, there are ways for you to go about it. And there's something I call the PDP framework. And I talk a lot about it in this particular video.